Isle Park in Detroit, Michigan. It's time for the Verizon IndyCar Series on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
We're searching for a theme for 2018. Expect the unexpected. A parody, you name it. We're going to have it, we think, until we get to September 16th and crown a champion. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Janes. Welcome to Belle Isle in Detroit. And after Will Power's dominance in the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he and his Penske teammates anything but dominant yesterday. The best they could do was Will Power, who came home in 7th place. Scott Dixon and Honda dominant on the day. We'll see what Chevy's been able to do to close the gap, if anything, as we get set to go qualifying for race number 2 here at Belle Isle. Our driver analyst, Anders Krohn, joins us, and I think the class of the field won the race yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was just such a dominant showing for Scott Dixon. Really, the fact that he qualified second quickest overall and he was in Group 1 yesterday showed everything you needed to know. And, just absolute class of the field. But what was interesting is just how similar the two strategies played out. Scott Dixon on a 2-stopper, Ryan Hunter-Reay on a 3-stopper, and they basically ended up dead even. So I think we're probably going to see a very similar picture today if it dries up, that the leader, whoever's out in front, is probably going to gamble on a 2-stopper. But if you're somewhat back in the pack, you're going to have to go on a 3-stopper to get clear track position. But obviously, a lot of change overnight now with the first time on these new Firestone rain tires this morning for qualifying. So this will be very, very interesting.
I'll tell you what, we want to get a conditions update from Michael Young in just a moment, but first, let's check in with Dave first. Dave?
Yeah, checking in here with Santino Ferrucci. He's in Group 2 qualifying as we're delayed roughly just a couple of minutes or so. First things first, are you okay after what happened to you yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, what happened yesterday was unfortunate. They're running really good, great pace, great fuel saving, having a lot of fun. I'm good, so ready for day 2.
That was a big hit you took yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he was doing, but
talking about Charlie Kimball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a rookie, but I mean, I wasn't out of line. I was following Kanan because I want to follow Kanan. So getting hit was a complete shock and surprise, and expect someone with that much experience to know a little bit better. But hey, it happens. It's racing. We'll go for it today.
You move on to qualifying today. What did you learn yesterday that will apply today, you think?
I mean, the rain's a completely different element, so it's really hard to say. I'm just going to go out, feel it out, have some fun with it, try and keep it out of the walls, bring the car home one piece for the team. And then the race, hopefully, if it's dry, I learned a lot how to fuel save and manage the tires. So I just kind of like rinse, wash, and repeat for today, for that race.
Good luck today, all right?
Thank you so much.
Santino Ferrucci, the rookie for Dale Coyne Racing, driving the number 19 machine. Further down pit road, we say hello to Ryan Moraine.
Thank you, Dave. I'm talking with Ricardo Juncos now, team owner, of course, for Juncos Racing. He has Renee Binder here this weekend, but the car's not out here on pit lane, and we have some rain coming down. The track is damp. Is that basically what's behind the decision not to run?
Yes, basically we try to keep building from yesterday's race. I think we're struggling big time with him on the practice, and it's normal, he needs more laps on the car. Unfortunately, everybody knows we were lacking a lot of testing this year. And yesterday during the race, we made the 15th fastest lap of the race without P2P, so we improved a lot, and we want to continue building this. We don't even have enough spares if something happened now. So if you go out like that for only 6 laps, most likely we're going to be probably on the wall or something like that. The risk is not doesn't make any sense for us. So we're just going to decide to start last the race and keep building from yesterday's race, which is, I think, is a smart move.
How would you assess the weekend so far?
It's good. I think we're learning a lot. Yesterday was a big surprise, big happiness for the team seeing that speed, because we were faster than 8 drivers, and now the car is much better, so we make some changes for today's race. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Let's go to Michael Young. He's got the track conditions. That's going to be the big storyline, I think, here in qualifying this morning. Michael?
Could sum it up in one word, Ryan Marine: wet. And we have a red flag. Tony Kanaan has turned it around. First time we will see these brand new Firestone Firehawk wet tires. We will try them out. None of the drivers have had an opportunity to see those yet. 62 the ambient temperature, 67 the track temperature. So it's certainly immensely different than what we've had at any other point in this race weekend, obviously being very, very wet. At one point in the paddock area, the Carlin crew was standing in about 3 inches of water. There was a drain right in the center of their paddock area. And although the rain has stopped, we see some of the clouds moving through, but a very, very wet morning here on the streets of Belle Isle, and that will certainly cause all kinds of havoc here in qualifying. And as we had said, we're in a red flag right now. Tony Kanaan looped her around. And here to explain this qualification format, let's throw things down to Dave first. Dave?
Well, here, everyone take notes here. We've got 2 qualifying groups today, split up by Friday's second practice. Remember, this is a doubleheader weekend, so a special weekend certainly deserved perhaps a special qualifying situation. Each group this morning gets a 12-minute session with 5 minutes of guaranteed green. The fastest in each session then, that will determine the front row. The fastest between the 2 drivers then on the front row will start from pole with their qualifying group, starting from the odd number positions behind them according to their qualifying result. We saw a very spirited battle yesterday for qualifying. I think a lot of the drivers, not everyone of course, but a lot of the drivers like the format, and we'll see how it plays out later this morning. Tony Kanaan will lose, by the way. If you bring out a red flag, you're going to lose the 2 fastest laps. So Tony Kanaan already in a deep, deep hole in this qualifying session.
Yep, doesn't look like he's going to be able to accomplish much in this session at all, according to race control. So a bad start to the day for Tony Kanaan. Let's go back and revisit the conversation that we had moments ago with Ricardo Juncos and their decision to park Renee Binder for this session.
I think that's probably a very, very wise decision. As we saw here with Tony Kanaan, these conditions are so difficult. And actually, I had a chance to look at some footage of Robert Wickens on his outlap here, and already just seeing him navigate, trying to go around all the rubber patches. The last thing you want to do on a wet track is be on top of the normal racing surface where all the rubber is. The moment water touches the rubber, it's slippery like ice, so you want to always try and avoid. So that's why you'll see drivers take to these alternate routes, maybe braking on the inside of the track, then in the middle of the corner going across the rubber to the outside of the track, then crossing back over at the exit of the corner. And I saw already on that opening lap, Robert Wickens did such a fine job of it, and I think exactly to Ricardo Juncos' point, it doesn't want to expose the car to any more risk than they absolutely have to.
See some damage on the nose, contact to the 14 of Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, and I think he was lucky there to just kind of nose it into the wall and not hit any of the wheels up against the wall. So that'll just be a simple nose change there. But I guess from what we're hearing, he won't be able to rejoin this session, so he'll be starting on the back of the grid.
So that's an update on Tony Kanaan, also on Renee Binder. Let's get an update, get some thoughts. Michael Young caught up with Joseph Newgard. Michael?
Yeah, Joseph was putting his helmet on. I just walked over and said, so how quickly do you go attack these corners? He goes, we got to get after it. This session is so short. We got to find out what we have. And I said, what are your concerns about these wet tires? He goes, they're wet tires. I said, well, how soon will you know? He goes, you'll know within 3 corners of what you have underneath you. So expect Joseph in this second qualification group to go out and attack hard. But I always find it so curious that these guys trust Firestone so much. Not curious, obviously Firestone is such a great tire, but a brand new tire they've never run, and they're going to hit it as hard as they can in this qualifying session.
At least in this session anyway, Anders. Not too many guys going to run nose to tail at speed. That's a pretty pronounced rooster tail of water coming off the rear of that race car.
Yeah, it is, and the visibility is so difficult. But I think now for the opening couple laps, everyone's just going to be experimenting with what lines work and what lines don't. I saw Robert Wickens go into the brake zone of turn 7, go way to the inside of the track, but he actually locked the wheels up a little bit, so James Hinchcliffe got all the way up against the gearbox of Wickens' car. But this is intriguing. This is the kind of condition I've been wanting to see all year long, just because of how difficult this is, not just for the drivers, but also for the team's perspective, to have a car that's so drivable over all these bumps and something that doesn't snap away from you. And certainly from a power delivery perspective, I think this could put Honda in a prime position yet again, because if they have a slightly more smooth power delivery, that's going to pay off big time here in the rain.
6 minutes remaining in this session. Speaking of 6, he'll be high atop turn 6 later today. We say good morning to Jake Query. Jake, a little wrinkle of intrigue, if you will, thrown into the proceedings for this race number 2 here at Belle Isle.
I say it every time that we see these conditions, Mark, and that is that I always find it amusing because drivers always say, I prefer the rain. I love the rain. I almost becomes like a mental game of trying to psych out your opponents of, well, if he's comfortable in the rain, then what do I need to do? Do I need to push a little bit more? But it is always interesting to watch, and in particular those rooster tails. Turn 6 is an area that, as we see Ryan Hunter-Ray goes through one of the runoffs in turn number 3. Turn 6 is an area where I think sometimes the car wants to slide a little bit from you out to the outside, which would be as you're trying to turn right. It wants to kind of keep going straight. I noticed that when I looked down below. Now, yesterday we didn't see anybody that got into any issue, Mark, but fatigue becomes a little more of a factor today with these back-to-back races, and you got to wonder how that comes into play. But, Anders, the other thing I was going to ask you that I've always wondered about, with these drivers in the helmets, when you get the spray, you get the rooster tails, you get the mist, we think about driving in our own car and using a windshield wiper. You don't have that. You don't have the luxury of being able to use your glove and just wipe away. You do have the tearaways, but what can or is done to the helmet itself to make sure that as the water comes, it doesn't stay in obstructive view?
Well, really, most drivers will actually opt to not have the tear-offs on the visor because typically a lot of water will get between the tear-off and the visor itself and will make it almost like a fishbowl feeling, and then you can't see anything. But the visibility is absolutely atrocious, and really the only thing you can do is apply some Rain-X to just help kind of the water disperse off the visor. But let me tell you, have you ever noticed the difference between driving a tall SUV and a small sports car in the rain? This is like the worst sports car you've ever driven, the lowest one to the ground. When you're driving behind someone, literally the only thing you can see is that red dot, that red light in front of you. So it's just completely by muscle memory thinking, when does the next corner come? Just thinking, okay, so I pulled 6th gear, so I know the braking zone should be coming up in 3, 2, 1. Now I have to start braking. And when you are in the rooster tail, man, the visibility is just absolutely, it can't even be described how bad it is.
A bit of an impact, I think, the conditions are having. Anders, we were looking at 115s in qualifying yesterday, and right now Wickett's setting the pace at a 136.5183.
And I tell you, that exactly just speaks to how difficult this surface is here, with the majority of the track being concrete. And concrete, obviously, there's not really anywhere for the water to sit, so when it comes down, it just kind of sits on top of the concrete and on top of all the rubber that's been put on top of it. So if you think that running on a wet racetrack on asphalt is slippery, running it on the concrete is another dimension entirely, and that's why we're seeing all these drivers now trying to go offline as much as they can. Marco Andretti actually in the shot coming into turn 7 completely to the inside of the track to get that car slowed down. So these are intriguing conditions. I'd love to watch the drivers here, but certainly I think there's only about 20% of the drivers that actually enjoy these types of conditions.
That 5 minutes of green requirement for the session has now been met, and it's a good thing because there's just 2.5 left in it. We're looking at Wickens, Jones, Hinchcliffe. As we say that, Hunter Ray gets a little racier. Then Chavez, then Jones. Now Hinch falls to 5th, and each time we say this, it starts to turn over a little bit as guys start clearing that timing and scoring loop off of turn 13. Good run yesterday by Ed Jones, and he needed it.
Yeah, he did need a clean run, so yeah, he's going to look to continue that momentum. Obviously, still wants to catch up to his teammate, but certainly another clean run today will give him some momentum. But at this point in time, man, I'm just blown away by Robert Wickens' ability to get up to speed so quickly. Until yesterday, he'd never raced here in the streets of Detroit, and now in these conditions, I mean, he's just showing what a special talent he is to be almost a second clear of Ryan Hunter-Reay in these tricky conditions. That's mighty impressive.
Committed to a pit strategy a little bit later, I think, than he would have liked, and that resulted in an 8th place finish, but he felt like he had a good pace with the race car, felt good about his chances today.
Yeah, he did, and he feels like him and James both feel that they were forced into that strategy based on the fact of how much pace they were lacking on the Firestone Reds. The alternate, we have Ryan Hunter-Reay spun around at the exit of turn 7 there, so again showing how difficult these conditions are, and that's not ideal at all with only 1 minute and 20 left here on the clock for Ryan Hunter-Reay, so he's only going to have one more clean lap here to get a lap in.
Boy, to his credit, though, he did a great job of keeping that thing under power, getting it spun back around and back underway, and didn't impede anybody's lap.
And he was going almost in a completely straight line, and we talked a little bit about yesterday how the tire is a bit of a one-dimensional beast, how it only likes to either brake, turn, or accelerate. In the rain, that gets accentuated to a whole nother level. The tire becomes even more one-dimensional, so any bit of input you make has to be so smooth and precise, and that's exactly what caught Hunter-Reay out there. But he's going to have one more lap to go here. 42 seconds left on the clock. Let's see what he can come back with.
Jake, how about a new P1 driver? How about Ed Jones? We were just talking about it.
Good day yesterday, as you were talking about, Mark, for Ed Jones, and the fact that he needed that. I mean, you make a good point. I think Ed Jones, we were starting to wonder what the exact leash was going to be with Chip Ganassi. Not to say that he would be replaced mid-season, but I'm just saying I think they wanted to start to see some results. He started to get it. Ryan Hunter-Reay is the one now that needs good results because finding himself in the 7th position. Of course, this is not knockout qualifying. He doesn't have to get into the Fast 6. But I think, Anders, what we see now is the true measure in terms of what kind of a lap Ryan Hunter-Reay had in this session. It's going to come right now.
Oh, and Sebastian Bourdais is off, and he's not going to improve upon his lap time. So Bourdais at the moment sitting 4th here, so that'll put him 8th, presumably, on the grid, expecting the next group to go quicker. Yet just locked him up into turn 7, then has to go through the chicane here into turn 11. So yeah, that's qualifying session over for Bourdais.
So what's tougher under these conditions? Braking going in or taking care of the accelerator when you come off?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I honestly can't pick one. It's so difficult. I mean, you have to be so precise with your brake release, but probably, I mean, if you're a Chevy driver, you're probably saying that it's the acceleration, considering their torque curve comes down so aggressively. If you're a Honda driver, it might be a slightly different story here. But Robert Wickens, boy oh boy, did he time this well. He's already gone to P1, but he beat the timing line before he got the checker flag, so he's going to have one more flyer here. So, and he's got a big lockup into turn 7. This is brilliant.
Robert Wickens exits turn number 7, gets back into the throttle. His teammate running just behind him on the course, James Hinchcliffe, also is, we believe, still on a bit of a flyer. He negotiates turn number 7, sets up for 8, 9, and 10. Wickens is P1, Jones, Hinch, Pagano, Hunter-Reay the top 5, then Marco, Chavez, Bourdais, Laced, Sato, Kanaan, and Binder. He is really talking about Wickens, still flinging that thing around the racetrack.
And coming up to the line, let's see, can he improve? He does not improve. No, he stays, but still good enough. And Hinchcliffe is the only one that can beat this time. Let's see what he can do here. One more corner to go, and he's going slowly. He's going very, very slowly, off the pace. So that's Robert Wickens, P1.
Robert Wickens goes to P1. We'll see if that time holds up as good enough for the pole speed. We do know it'll be a front row start nonetheless for Robert Wickens when we go racing later today here at Belle Isle.
Firestone presents legendary drives. Super speedways, short ovals, dry tracks, wet tracks, concrete or asphalt. The IndyCar Series is the ultimate test for a driver. And being a driver that can adapt to anything means having a tire that can do the same. That's why we build Firestone tires to handle it all. Because if they can endure all that, well, you can bet they'll bring you to victory every day. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone, the tire that drives IndyCar legends.
From the Firestone broadcast booth at Belle Isle, this is the Verizon IndyCar Series.
So Robert Wickens knows, at the very least, Anders Crone, he's going to have a front row seat to the start of this one.
Yes, indeed. And now the question is, how much quicker will the second group go, or at all? I mean, the track's a lot drier now, so it all just depends on how this new Firestone rain tire compound is. It could very well be that it requires more rain on the track to be as efficient as possible. And if that's the case, then we might have actually already seen the fastest time in the form of Robert Wickens at a 1:33.66. But yeah, I would definitely expect the Firestones to keep improving here.
Let's hear from him, Michael Young.
Provisionally on the pole, Robert Wickens. Not a big smile. Walk us through your half of the qualifying session.
Hasn't really sunk it in yet. I mean, we had a great car. I got your cord there.
That's all right.
No, it was good enough for quickest in the group, but the track's drying so quickly. So I think front row start, not too bad, but the car felt great out there. And I mean, honestly, it was such a fast session, it was hard to kind of get the emotions up. So that's why I wasn't smiling.
Tell us the difference between the wets that we had at Barber Motorsports Park and this new wet tire.
You can't compare the two. It's a street course versus a permanent circuit. Obviously, Barber, we had significantly more water than what we have now. So it's too hard to give a judge, but they held up fine. I mean, it's tricky conditions right now because it's wet, but it's drying quickly. So, no, they held up well. It was a good job.
Well done. Thank you. Provisionally on the pole, that's Robert Wickens.
Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Zach Veach, Will Power, Max Chilton, Spencer Piggott, Santino Ferrucci, Charlie Kimball, and Jordan King make up the second group to qualify. Now, yesterday, Anders, the Guys in Group 1 said Group 2 had a clear advantage. That's not so much the case today.
Well, on paper, Group 2 should be a lot quicker here, given how much the track is dried up from the first session to the second one. But then again, you really don't know. If this compound with Firestone is a lot softer than the previous compound, then it could be that they require so much water on the track that it could actually go slower here.
To pit road and Dave first.
Here with Ed Jones, second quick in Group number 1 here this morning. What did you learn out there? How much fun was that?
Yeah, I know, it was good out there. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like in the wet. It's pretty sketchy the first few laps, but actually once everything got up to temp and started having an idea of what to do, it was very fun to drive, very difficult. But, obviously the wet, we didn't know how we were going to be. Now if we can start 4th, I guess it will be around there. We have a really strong car on the dry, and it should be really good for ladies today.
You hopped out of your 10 car, immediately came down up pit road to say something to Scott Dixon. What did you say, or what can you share with us anyway?
Well, I was just trying to, give him a heads up on a few of the lines and where there's more grip, and just so that he doesn't have to, so that he's a step ahead of the other guys out there. Because obviously I just had that experience. Obviously the track is drying out quite a bit now, so it will change again, but just trying to help any small thing I can for him.
See where you start. Good luck this afternoon.
Yeah.
Good teamwork stuff going on down here at Chip Ganassi Racing.
Nick Yeoman joins us, and your position, turn number 7 yesterday. Nick, you'll be back there this afternoon. That was not for the faint of heart yesterday. You were plenty busy.
No, we had an accident down there with Santino Ferrucci as we see Max Chilton trying to spin his Carlin racing machine back around and get that Chevy back on the racetrack. Turn 7's a tricky spot, Mark. It doesn't matter if it's dry or wet. We saw an accident there yesterday, and here in qualifying, we've already seen drivers sliding through. So turn 7 later today can be an interesting spot. But as these drivers are finding out, there aren't a lot of good lines or dry spots on this track right now, Mark.
To Ryan Marine on pit road. Ryan?
Speaking with Simon Pagino, we were just chatting a second ago. You said you had a good time in that session. What was it like from the driver's seat?
Well, it was fun. It was really fun. I love these conditions. Firestone brought us a new rain tire, so it was a bit of an unknown for everybody, but they behaved really well. And we made a lot of changes overnight on the car, but it worked really well. I'm pretty happy with the performance today. It was fun. I wish we had a whole race like this. It would be fun.
So you qualify in the wet, which means there's going to be some cars that are good in the wet starting up front, maybe some cars that are better in the dry starting towards the back. How interesting might this race turn out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for the show, great for you guys out there. So we'll see what happens in this next session. It should go a little faster. The track is drying, and this afternoon should be good weather. So we'll see. At the end of the day, you got to do the best you can with what you have, and I'm sure that's what everybody's going to try to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Simon Pagino, driver of the DXC Technology Chevrolet for Team Penske.
Alexander Rossi turning the fastest lap, but we're very early on in this process. There is a local flag indicating debris in that area between 8 and 9 where we saw that issue moments ago. And Alexander Rossi, he did not win the race yesterday, but he vaults to the top in terms of the championship, 4 points ahead of Scott Dixon.
And boy, oh boy, what a daring move it was around the outside of Marco Andretti coming into turn 3. That wasn't for the faint of heart, and he is just slipping and sliding out there. And if you look at his lap time progression compared to that of Robert Wickens, you would expect that this group is going to go significantly quicker than Group 1. A 136.3 on his very first flyer. That's what took Robert Wickens 3-4 laps to get down to. So I definitely think this is going to be significantly quicker. But Alexander Rossi here, he looks like he's coming up to some traffic here in Jordan King.
Nick Yeoman, Robert Wickens, after his performance yesterday, inside 100 points now back. But Rossi, as we mentioned, 4 points up on Dixon, 7 up on Power, 21 on Newgarden, 49 on Ryan Hunter-Ray. Through the first, 3 or 4 races of the season going into May, we talked about the parity and how 5 different teams were represented in the top 5 or 6 in points. Now all of a sudden we see a couple of Andretti, we see a Ganassi, and we see a couple of Penske cars.
Well, we've also got a long way to go, and it's good to see that things are awful tight at the top as we see Will Power goes to P1 at a minute 36.1, and Alexander Rossi bumps him off. And importantly, Anders, it's faster than Robert Wickens' lap time. So this second group guaranteed to have the pole sitter. But to your point, Mark, it's been a super competitive championship. We've seen 7 different pole sitters in the first 7 races. We'll see if we get an 8th here. But after Indianapolis, this championship is still wide open. And as you say, there are going to be some comers and goers, and that's always the fun part of that summer stretch for the IndyCar schedule.
Are we going to see Schmidt, Peterson, Anders be able to join Andretti and Ganassi and Penske in terms of being able to compete for a title to the end?
Well, that's something that you can't really answer. But one thing is for certain, their street course game is strong, and certainly their oval game as well has made a big step forward this year compared to last. So this is probably their best shot to be as consistent as possible over the course of a season. But let me just go back real quick to Alexander Rossi and the lap that he just threw down, which was 3 seconds quicker than Will Power on that last lap. I mean, that is just, in racing terms, in another stratosphere. So that lap for Alexander Rossi, absolutely ginormous, and the car for him just dancing, just beautiful to watch.
That PNC Bank car is getting comfortable with the conditions as well. Scott Dixon is currently second quick. They have satisfied the 5 consecutive minutes in this session, so whatever happens here will count as we reach the 5.5-minute mark. So it's Rossi, Dixon, Rahal, Ferrucci, Power, and Veach, then King, Piggott, Chilton, Newgarden, and Kimball. Spencer Piggott gave his car a pretty good ride yesterday. He flirted with the top 10 all day long.
Yeah, actually, it was a much-needed solid run for him, much like Ed Jones. He's kind of had an up-and-down start to the season, so he definitely needs some clean results here in Detroit for sure.
Let's hear from Ryan Hunter-Reay. Dave first.
Yeah, let's talk about this qualifying session for Ryan. What did you make out of that?
It's a bit of a mess. Locked the front brakes pretty easily, so I had to turn the car around down at turn 3, and then just really struggled with getting the power down. That's the big thing. I just could not feed the power on, so we were looking okay there for a bit up to P2, and then because of causing the yellow, we had our fastest lap taken away, so I think we're starting 10th now, so unfortunate, but we have a fast race car, I think.
I was going to say it'd be no better than 9th, but it kind of shades of yesterday. Got your work out for you once again.
Oh, big time.
Worked out okay yesterday.
Okay yesterday, so hopefully we can use that to our advantage later today in the race, so we can we can count on our fast race car and make some headway on our own.
We'll see you then.
Thanks,
guys. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Pretty good battles yesterday with his teammates Alexander Rossi and Marco Andretti, and Ryan Hunter-Reay again came home in second, finishing behind Scott Dixon. Rossi continues to show the fast way around Belle Isle.
Yeah, he is, and he just did a slowdown lap on that last lap, 8 seconds off his pace, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just gapped himself a little bit to Jordan King to go for another clean lap here, and it looks indeed like he does have that clean gap because no one around him at the moment. And look, yet again, well, as I say that, Will Power now goes second quick in this session, and Joseph Newgarden in the barriers.
Yeah, Joseph Newgarden is in the barriers, and that's off of what, turn 11, I believe. Yep, coming off that little short straightaway, Joseph Newgarden puts it in the tire barriers, and Anders, 3.5 minutes remaining in this session, and a red flag comes out.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to see them go back to green here. He's pretty buried there in, is that, yeah, that is turn 11, and just carries a bit too much speed, understeers straight into the wall, very, very easy to do, and the moment you get onto that rubber on the wet track, yeah, you're going to slide straight forward. So not sure if they'll get this back to green. They might be able to pull them back into that sort of runoff rescue area and get them back to green here, but whether they'll go quicker or not, I don't know. But that is, tell you what, that's so impressive for Will Power in this Honda-dominated weekend to go second quickest in this session, and we know they've had some power delivery issues with it just being so aggressive on power, and no place is that more difficult than in these types of conditions, so that's an impressive performance.
Pagenaud finished 17th. We mentioned Will Power finished 7th, and Joseph Newgarden finished 9th. That was Team Penske yesterday.
Yeah, and as of right now, if we don't get this session started, and assuming, if things stay consistent that we saw in the first group when Tony Kanaan brought out a red flag, he was done. So I'm assuming if we even get this session going again, that Joseph Newgarden, we just get confirmation he is done. So he's going to start, it looks like as of right now, 19th. So he'll be one to watch at the charge. And Anders, the thing that I look at the top of the charts, Rossi and Wickens side by side on a street course, brought back to St. Petersburg, and the fireworks that we saw there at the end of the race. If that's how this thing shakes out, we're going to have an interesting start to this race.
I know that they had that coming together in St. Pete, but ever since then, every time they've been close to each other on the track, they've raced each other so clean and so well, and I think they both realized, like, hey, we're two bright, shining lights of the Verizon IndyCar Series, and we're probably both going to have pretty significant careers here in this paddock. And so the way they've raced ever since, I think it's been full of respect, and it's been awesome to watch the two of them. But, yeah, this certainly gives some flashbacks, doesn't it?
It is taking a while to get that number one car out of that tire barrier. He has wedged it up underneath the tires, and looks like they've got the tow strap out, and they're going to have to pull him out using one of the safety vehicles. They're not going to be able to quick jack him getting back on the racetrack, and that's basically, I think it's going to kill the session.
Yeah, it is for sure. With 1 minute, 17 seconds to go, there is no way they're going to be able to pull him out in time for everyone to go out and get a timed lap. That is, of course, unless IndyCar says, yeah, everyone can have one timed lap like they did in practice on Friday.
We're down to 1 minute. Rossi, Power, Dixon, Veach, Rahal, the top five. Then King, then Ferrucci, then Piggott, then Newgarden, then Chilton, then Kimball. What's the challenge for these race teams once we finish this session, assuming that we're going to be dry this afternoon?
Well, then they have to reset the setup on the cars. Typically, when you go to a range setting, you make everything softer, and the cars were already softly sprung as it was to handle all the bumps around here. So, but usually what you do when you're in range setting is you'll stand up the wheels, you'll reduce the amount of camber you have to just give the ultimate contact patch and allow the carves in the tires to have the ultimate contact patch. But certainly, if it does drive back up, I think we'll see some teams go back to slightly more aggressive camber settings and potentially slightly stiffer cars.
So with 15 seconds remaining on the clock, they get Joseph Newgarden restarted, and he is headed back around to pit road. The question is he going to get back to pit road before the time runs out on the session? And it doesn't look like he's going to, and the checkered flag falls on this session. Anders Kroll.
And how about that performance by Alexander Rossi, a full half a second quicker than Will Power? But most importantly, I think his second lap was the most impressive when he went 3 seconds quicker than the rest of the group. That means he's so comfortable in that car, and obviously a lot of racing experience in Europe for Alexander Rossi. And, he's raced a lot in the rain over the last few years, and that's certainly helped him here.
We talked about it earlier, Nick Yeoman. We think this is a driver that appears poised to stick around for a while in this championship hunt, and I still maintain his momentum might go back to that dominant performance he had at Watkins Glen late last season.
Yeah, he's had the ability to show up on race weekends, and if he's got it figured out, he hits it out of the ballpark. Of course, at Long Beach earlier this year, he won pole and dominated that race. This is going to be interesting today to see if he can dominate, because he's got some heavy hitters up there with him, with Wickens, Power, and Ed Jones there making up the first two rows. But he's the maturation process, Mark, in 3 years now for Alexander Rossi. It's pretty impressive, where he's gone from a hotshot rookie to an Indy 500 winner to now a consistent contender, and certainly one on the championship front as well.
Career pole number 3 now for Alexander Rossi. We will hear from him and others when we come back to Belle Isle.
Firestone presents Legendary Drives. The scariest thing in sports is a left turn, taking it over 220 miles an hour. Turn 1 at the Indy 500 demands everything a tire's got, putting 2.5 Gs on them for 4 seconds. Once it's over, they only have to do it 199 more times. And if Firestone tires are so dependable they can handle turn 1, they'll handle any turn you need to make. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone, the tire that drives IndyCar legends.
From the Firestone broadcast booth at Belle Isle, this is the Verizon IndyCar Series.
To Belle Isle, welcome back to Belle Isle. Mark James, Anders Kroll, Nick Yeoman in the broadcast booth. They are rolling Alexander Rossi, smiles and all, back to pick up the big check and get all the spoils for starting on pole later today. The front row will feature Rossi and Wickens. Then Will Power and Ed Jones in row number 2. Row 3, Scott Dixon and James Hinchcliffe. Zach Veach, Simon Pagenaud in row 4. Row 5 as Graham Rahal and Ryan Hunter-Ray. Row 6, King and Andretti. Ferrucci and Chavez in row number 7. In row number 8, Piggott and Bourdais. Chilton and Laced make up row number 9. Row 10, Joseph Newgarden, Takuma Sato, then Charlie Kimball and Tony Kanaan in row 11. Starting 23rd, Rene Binder, who did not qualify. Tony Kanaan not given a time because of his spin that brought out a red flag early in his qualifying session. So, based upon yesterday, we do see some interesting folks. Takuma Sato very fast yesterday. He will roll off 20th. We know Sebastian Bourdais will be competitive. But let's hear from Will Power. He'll roll off in the 3rd position, Ryan.
Second fastest in that second group to go out and qualify. Were you happy with that performance? Is that what you were expecting?
Yeah, no, we're happy with that, considering we were struggling a lot yesterday to kind of be in the top 6. Starting, I said to the guys, we start in the top 4, we have a better chance of doing something, so that's exactly what we needed.
Hondas seem to have been pretty stout this weekend, but this is a good starting spot. Do you think you could take the fight to the Hondas now that you're starting in the first couple of rows?
Yes, I think we have a better chance of it. Obviously, they've got some seriously fast cars, but we'll do our best. See what we can give them.
Good luck in the race today.
Thank you.
That's Will Power, your reigning Indianapolis 500 winner.
Sounds pretty optimistic about his chances today.
Yeah, I think so, and he knows outright pace-wise he's probably not going to be quite there with Alexander Rossi and Robert Wickens, but sometimes that can make things a little easier because then you can roll the dice on an alternate strategy. So maybe if it is a straightforward 2-stopper for Rossi and Wickens, maybe Power can switch it up and go for a 3-stopper and make things interesting and make some stuff happen.
See anything yesterday that would make someone alter that pit strategy? Maybe those that went to 3 go on 2 or vice versa?
I think it all comes down to track position. If you have a fast car, I think Ryan Hunter-Reay, perfect case in point. I think almost undoubtedly he's going to opt for a 3-stop strategy because he's going to start off in 10th. He's going to be stuck in traffic. That's going to keep him from doing the quick lap time. So I think we're going to see him pit early, get some clean track time, and really just pound in the laps as long as he possibly can, because then he might be able to vault his way back up onto the podium. So I think we're going to see the second part of the field. They are definitely going to opt for a 3-stopper to try and go off strategy. But if you're Alexander Rossi and Robert Wickens, you would have to take a pretty big risk to take the chance on the 3-stopper.
But Nick Yeoman, what no one knows for sure is how Mother Nature is going to intervene. We anticipate, according to the prognosticators, that the rest of the day is going to be fairly dry. However, there is a chance, based upon what we see right now, that could change, which throws all these strategies out the window.
Yep, and that's, as Anders talked about, makes it an absolute nightmare for these engineers and the crew members back in the paddock that now have to decide what they want to do to prep these cars. So it's going to be interesting. Quick tip of the cap, Mark. Zach Veach starting 7th. That's awful nice. And also to Graham Rahal and that Rahal Letterman Lanigan crew. He hit awful hard yesterday in that race, tore up that car for a last-place finish. He ends up in the top 10 as well. But, yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. And we'll make sure to keep everybody posted on social media and everything as to what we're seeing from the skies in terms of the race later today.
Good to see Ed Jones follow up his 6th-place finish yesterday by qualifying 4th today. Michael Young, you've caught up with our pole sitter.
Alexander Rossi, 3rd career pole. It's a good day when you have a smile on your face. You came out on, I think, your 2nd lap and laid a massive, massive time down. Talk about the wets. Talk about that session.
Well, first of all, I think Firestone did an amazing job with this wet tire. It made my life easy. I mean, there was a lot of grip, and it was very, very predictable. So hats off to Firestone for that. And, obviously the number 27 Royal Field Mortgage car had the balance right. So just tried to push and find the grip, and it was enough.
Track position was such a key yesterday. You made a great pass around your teammate Marco Andretti, but leading the field down, you and Robert Wickens, makes life a little bit easier.
Oh, for sure. It was very difficult to pass yesterday. So definitely starting on pole, having new reds, because we didn't use them this morning, is a great thing, and we look forward to hopefully having a strong race.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Alexander Rossi will bring him down for the duel number 2. That's his 3rd career pole. Let's go to Dave first.
And here with Joseph Newgarden, assessing exactly what happened in the qualifying session. It's no way to begin the day, though, is it?
No, not the best way. I obviously made a mistake, and that ended that. But we were trying to get going there. I was struggling a bit to figure out what I needed from the balance, and ultimately just made a mistake in the end. So we'll try and get going here in the race. We're going to be starting from the back. We'll try and do something creative and make a good day out of it. But I feel good about the Hitachi car and the dry. I think yesterday the guys did a great job on strategy and trying to make something of the day, and we'll try and do the same thing this afternoon.
I was going to say maybe strategy now comes into play, maybe a 3-stopper, roll the dice a little bit, who knows what. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to make the most of it. It's these street courses where anything can happen, and we'll try and make something out of it.
All right, good luck today.
Thank you.
Yep, Joseph Newgarden. He will roll off 19th this afternoon.
Yep, thanks, Dave. And we will have flag-to-flag coverage of race number 2 at 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. We hope you will join us for that. The director of the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network is Wally Levitt. On-site production and engineering by Rick Evans. Production and master control operations at our Indianapolis studios by Chris Pollock. In the pits today, Dave First, Michael Young, and Ryan Marine. Also thanks to Jake Query and Nick Yeoman for joining yours truly and Anders Crone here in the broadcast booth. So again, join us, 3 p.m. Eastern, race number 2 here at Belle Isle. I'm Mark James. So long for now.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Let's pick him up, boys, in the backstretch. Bernie Herman, you should be seeing him about now.
We're waiting for the quiet, unassuming Jim Rathbun, the Jan Paul special. And here he comes now in car number 4.